Chapter 8.3, Simple Interest. Interest is the amount of money that we get paid for lending or investing money, or that we pay for borrowing money. When we deposit money in a savings institution, the institution pays us interest for its use. The money doesn't just sit there, they're using it. But when we borrow money, interest is the price we pay for the privilege of using their money until we repay it. The amount of money that we deposit or borrow is called the principal. The amount of interest depends on the principal, the interest rate, and the length of time for which the money is deposited. Okay, simple interest involves interest calculated on the principal only. And we'll talk about a different kind of interest in the next section. And here's a formula for the interest. I equals PRT, where P is the principal, R is the rate of interest as a decimal, and T is the time in years. Before the modern use of calculators and computers, the banker's rule often allowed financial institutions to use 360 for the number of days in a year instead of 365. It was just a much easier number to use. But with the widespread use of calculators and computers, government agencies and the Federal Reserve Bank calculate simple interest using 365 days in a year, as do many credit unions and banks. However, there are still some financial institutions that use the banker's rule with 360 days in a year because, after all, it produces a little bit greater amount of interest. So pay attention to that when your time is in years. Is it telling you to use 360 for the number of days in a year or 365? When a loan is repaid, the interest is added to the original principal to find the total amount due. And so that formula looks like this. You'll also see that we can factor that P out. And you can see that that formula also can be written like this. So you may see it like this some, but this is the easiest way to use and remember that formula because it's simply the interest plus the principal. Okay, A, of course, is the amount due, P is the principal, R is the rate of interest as a decimal, and T is the time in years. A is also known as the future value, and P can be called the present value. Note, when finding present value, always round the principal up. To round up to the nearest cent, add 1 to the hundredths digit, regardless of the digit to the right. Always round up. In this way, you'll be sure to have enough money to meet future goals. And we're going to see this again. Always round up when you're finding the present value. So let's practice that a bit. Let's see what we have here. We've got a principal of $5,000, interest rate of 8.5%, 9 months time, and we want to find the simple interest owed. Okay, simple interest. Interest is principal times rate times time. I know the principal, I know the rate, I know the time. So I can just plug that into the formula. So the principal is $5,000. Now I do have to convert that rate to a decimal. So instead of 8.5, don't forget moving, because we're starting with a percent number and I want to go to a decimal, right? So I would move that 2 places to the left, 0.085, and time has to be in years. So there are 12 months in a year. Some of us might know that 9 months is 0.75 or 3/4 of a year, but if we don't know that, no matter how many months it gives us, this is the fraction of a year that 9 months is, 9 out of 12. If it was 7 months, I'd say 7 out of 12. If it said 10 weeks, I'd do 10 out of 52, the portion of a year. Okay, and then we can just enter that in our calculator to find the interest. So that's 5,000 times 0.085 times 9/12, or $318.75. Okay, if the principal is $3,000, interest rate is 7% for 2 years, it says find the loan's future value. So one thing I could do is I could just find the interest and add it to $3,000, right? That's really what our formula is. It's the principal plus the interest, which is principal times rate times time. So it is $3,000 plus the principal times the interest rate as a decimal times the number of years. Plug that in my calculator. 3,000 plus 3,000 times 0.07 times 2 to get 3,420. Notice the interest must have been $420, right? But the total amount due, or the future value, is 3,420. All right, now we've got a principal of 2,300, and it's given us the total amount of the loan, the accumulated value, the amount, or the future value, and T is 250 days. And it's asking us to find the loan's simple interest rate to the nearest tenth of a percent. Assume 360 days in a year. Okay, so this time I want to find the loan's simple interest rate. Here's my formula for the future value. The only difference is what I'm going to fill in. This time I know the A, which is 2840. The principal is 2,300 plus, again, the principal is 2,300, but I don't know what R is. The interest rate is what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to leave this as an R. And time, 250 out of 360 days in a year. And I'm just going to solve this for R. So my first step in solving this for R, I might subtract the 2,300. Okay, I have an equation with only one unknown, so I should be able to solve this and find that unknown. So 540 equals 2,300 times R times 25 over 36, just to make it a little more manageable. Okay, next I might want to get rid of that fraction. I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 36, or however you're used to solving your linear equations. So 540 times 36 is 19,440 equals 2,300 times R times 25. Okay, let's see what 2,300 times 25 is. We'd wind up with 19,440 equals 57,500. And because this is being multiplied by the R, let's divide by 57,500. Both sides the same. Divide by 57,500. So 19,440 divided by 57,500 is .338086958695 dot equals R. Now, because it's a rate of interest, first of all, I need to change this back to a percent. So since I'm starting with a decimal and I want to go to a percent, I would move my decimal point in that direction 2 places. So I'd have 33.808695 dot percent, but it has asked me to round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So here's my tenth place. If I look immediately to the right, a 0 is definitely less than 5. So the 8 remains. The other digits get to be dropped off. So my interest rate on this loan is a whopping 33.8%. Okay, so this required the use of some basic algebra. Let me know if you have any problems with that. And I'll catch you on the next round.